Hello and welcome to this week's Old School Q&A. I'm your host, Mod Gambit. I am joined on the couch this week by Mod Kieran.
You alright?
Mod Ash.
Hello.
Mod Wolf.
Hello.
And on my left I have Mod Sween.
Hello.
And Mod Matt K.
Hi.
We don't have... also we have the wonderful Mod Bruno on chat. Don't forget to send your questions in the chat at... Is it RS? Sorry, at RuneScape?
Old School RS.
Old School RS. And he'll... Oh, it is at RuneScape. Send your questions to at RuneScape in chat and he'll pick those up.
Do both, safe.
So, something I want to talk about, well, actually I'm going to hand over to Mod Sween and Matt K for this, is exclamation mark big, sorry, let me start again. Exclamation mark big blog will take you to the blog that we posted the other day.
Yeah, I was a bit cautious.
We'll bring you to the blog that we put live the other day, answering some of the sort of hottest topics that you guys have had. And like I said, I'm going to hand over to Mod Sween and Matt K to talk a bit more about that and some of the questions that have been raised from you guys. So take it away.
I mean, we covered a lot in the yesterday's blog. So we've tried to assemble the couch with a few of those who contributed to it. We don't have anyone from player support, but we've spoken to them about the questions and feedback you had from the blog. So you've got some messages from them to relay to you. And I think we'll just run through the feedback they wanted to give us and the questions they want answered. Should we crack on?
Yeah.
Player support stuff first? Because it's, okay, so we spoke to Mod Kelvin, Mod Steve W, Mod Mix and Mod Benno, to the operations team for player support. I guess there are kind of three main questions or three main pieces of feedback you had, which was, the first one was, you've heard it all before, which is very much true. It's the same for everything in the blog really, not just the player support stuff, but also the sections we wrote. All we can do is try to make it right this time and make it work this time. We have changed our approach to it. It's no longer isolated in that we're all different teams trying to do different things at once by ourselves, but it all falls under a large project, which every part of the blog falls into. We're one big working group meeting together.
Yeah, so I guess this is going to sound very technical and boring and project managey, but this is how we're doing it differently this time. We have one big project which is just called Sentiment. How do we make sure that you guys are happy? And it all breaks down into little projects that we've been talking about, and that's what constructed the blog in itself. These are all the issues that you're talking about. How do we address each one of those? And each one of those has their owner. Different departments are owning their own departments. There's no point having content development owning the sentiment for account security, for example, because they're two very different things, but it all comes together under one big banner of game sentiment, which is controlled from within the team. So we're making sure that everything, whether the whole old school team, whether it's community management, whether it's platform, whether it's game development, are all pushing to doing the right thing for you and making sure that we move forward on all of this stuff. That sort of sum it up?
Yeah, spot on.
Cool.
I have a question with stuff like, what about the authenticated delay or case-sensitive passwords or longer passwords or symbols in your passwords? Are those kind of suggestions you've got for account security? So the reason they weren't covered specifically is because they fall under the general umbrella term of account security. In their blog, they address that they know that you're not happy with account security, and those are parts of what they want to cover. They mentioned surveys and blogs going forwards, and that's when they'll get into the specifics of what you can expect, such as potential for authenticated delay or case-sensitive passwords. They do want to kind of reiterate that this will take, of all the customer support stuff mentioned in the blog, this will take the longest to get right, and it'll be the hardest to resolve. So in terms of timeline, we don't have one immediately for you, but work is already underway.
Yeah, it's really difficult because account security in itself is very difficult because there's not an awful lot we can say beforehand anyway, because obviously if we give you details of what's happening, then that sort of makes account security less. So we've got to sort of talk about it quite carefully. And obviously we want the experts to talk to you as well, which will be the player support people. And they'll be on this couch at some point in the coming weeks and months to talk more about it to you, and you can have the proper conversation with them and they can give you the right information there.
Yep. And lastly, there were lots of questions about what we meant by toxicity in the blog. And in hindsight, we probably could have called it player behavior or something more player friendly rather than just toxicity. I think that's quite an industry term for how we want to look at player behavior. To answer some of the questions, like will we go back to muting players how we did in the early 2000s? we're not going to mute you for like AQPWs.
We're not.
We're not? No.
That's going to be in the chat now, isn't it?
That's my phone.
Well done. There we go. It's going to be everywhere.
We don't really know what we mean by toxicity. We need to understand what you consider to be toxic. Do you like offensive language or just being cussed out if you're being crashed? Do you consider that toxic? Or is it people at the GE spamming incessantly all day long? Is that more pressing? Is that more toxic for you? So we need to understand what you consider toxic and what you want to be addressed. And that's when we can work on addressing it. And that's pretty much it from player support perspective. I think what they covered was quite expansive and there weren't too many questions related, apart from the specifics about account security and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when conversations continue with this and when player support start talking directly with you guys, I think that's when you're going to start seeing and get a lot more detail, a lot more understanding of what's going on.
So they pinpointed 3 different blogs, and in each one will have hopefully more of a timeline for when you can expect to see player-facing stuff that you can really look at.
Yeah, it's not something that we've not heard and not been working on already. This entire thing, it's not. None of this is a surprise to us, as it's not a surprise for you. So we have got plans in place. We started putting plans in place for this year, sort of about 6 months ago. So we've been thinking about this quite a lot. Even before that, a lot of work went on as well. So we are moving forward, and we're just going to be more open about it with you guys going forward.
I think one of the most encouraging things for me about this from the player support angle is the increase in visibility and communication about what's going to be done. So I think the fact that we're going to release blogs explaining how we're addressing the concerns as we go is hopefully going to, reassure you guys that we are working on the things you've raised. And it looks very positive, at least from that perspective, which is good.
Indeed.
I didn't really expect the positive reaction that we got to the blog because, like you said, it's not, you've heard it all before. But I think it's plain to see that you weren't expecting a quick fix for all these things. You just wanted better communication.
I think that's a fair point.
What
else we got with this?
Other stuff. Contest winners. We'll go through all the crab stuff. So I didn't think it was relevant for the blog because it doesn't directly impact you in game, and it is only a smaller number of players. But it is still embarrassing. It's still a problem. Like I hate seeing it. It is an embarrassment. In the past, the process for handling contest winners and prizes was crap. There was no accountability. The budget holder was an entirely different department. We've ironed all that out. Going forwards, I am totally confident that prizes and contests will be resolved as they should be properly. In terms of outstanding prizes and stuff, if you're still awaiting anything, email us at oldschoolcommunity@jagex.com with your account name, contest, the prize, as much information you can provide, and retroactively we'll sort it out. Going forwards, it'll be much smoother.
I imagine there'll be some checking for those people who write in saying that they
Definitely
were
lots of
expecting to be sent a pony and
I don't know, I got my phone out. Didn't I win one of those Dead Man tournaments?
Yeah, we will have the necessary checks we need to do. But there isn't really a better way of going back to the historical competitions and prizes we've done over the years. Because like I said, the process was pretty pants. There's not much documentation.
as I understand it, the people who actually had the authority to transfer the funds were not in the community team and therefore wouldn't necessarily do it on request and wanted a lot more verification. Did it sound like your team's got more control over that kind of thing?
The budget is now within, I mean, if the players do care, it wasn't a part of the community budget. We'd have to go for approval from other departments, but the budget is now within the community team, so it's a much smoother process.
That will sound a lot better.
Absolutely.
Polling is a big one. Lots of questions about polling came up. There was lots of support from the players actually for increasing the visibility and accessibility of polling. So not necessarily just the one message on the login check, which is in the poll live from the first login, and then nothing else. People were suggesting making it upon every login. Some people suggested making it so you don't have to visit a poll booth to vote. You could do it via another interface. Lots of suggestions for incentives, but then also they were debunked by other players who said no, people would just spam yes, spam no, and ruin the quality. So they're able to solve that problem themselves.
I think forcing people to express an opinion when they hadn't got one is not quite the help that players would be looking for.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas making it more accessible sounds rather good. We actually offered, when we first did in-game polls, to various things we could do, like build into the game frame, build into the welcome screen. We ran a survey, and the most popular one by far was booths. So that's where we went. But it would actually have been easier to stick a button on the game frame, saved all the mapping work, and we're still just happy to if you want it.
And then the inevitable was the lots of feedback regarding hiding poll results. But you might say just hide them, but there are other things we want to consider around the poll system, other things we want to look at improving. So we mentioned visibility and accessibility. There are suggestions for just restricting votes dependent on the type of content. That comes with other problems too, such as how do you just categorize what a piece of content is? How is it inherently PvP or PvM? What the actual requirements would be? Could you farm them? Could you game them? Would you want more transparency about the work required for content? Would that help better inform your vote? Could polls act as a means of suggestions rather than just like a final say of a yes, no? We had a chat about hiding polls.
I think it boils down to it. What is the purpose of the poll system? That is the fundamental question that we want to answer. I mean, we think we have an understanding of what it should be, and it's sort of I'm happy to. We haven't decided this 100%, but I'm happy to have sort of a discussion here about what is the poll system for. I think it's there for us to understand exactly what the players want to put in game, and that's the core purpose of the poll system. The solutions to getting that as a thing and getting the poll system being that, it's something we're nowhere near at the moment. I mean, if we look at how many people vote in a poll, it's less than 5% of the members' community in itself.
I think it was 12%.
Was it 12%?
The average for lots of months.
So it's it's a tiny proportion of players who actually tell us what you're a tiny percent of you telling us what you want us to do, and to me that makes me think, well, is this really representative of the players? Are we really servicing the players that need servicing? Do 88% of you not care? It's a very that's the fundamental question to me. And hiding the poll results isn't going to solve that. And we need to look much more deeper than that. Find out what the actual problem is. Get the polls so that people care about voting. Know they can make a difference. What's the other one? Easily get to it. Know they can make a difference, and actually they have something they want to poll on. I think they're the things that make it really interesting to me.
That's not to say that hiding them may not be a potential solution, because they're like, just to respond to the chat immediately there, it could be a potential solution, right? It's not us saying it's not going to happen, but it's not us saying it will happen as well. Just because there's a lot of question marks as soon as you said no there.
Yeah,
it will fall under everything else we want to do, which means
exactly.
It's like at the point that it's 12%, like that is really low. Somebody in the chat was like, "That's really high." I was like, no, that's really, really low. And I don't think just hiding the poll results, like, don't get me wrong, hiding the poll results might solve what you guys think you want to solve as well. Oh God, I said the you guys think thing. I pulled the mobile thing. Sorry, I didn't mean that. But I really don't think that just hiding poll results will make a 12% of our active, current members vote jump to 100 or 90 all of a sudden. There's clearly another problem there as well.
Yeah, I think the point we're making here is it's part of a wider conversation about the polling system. It's something we're taking into consideration and looking at, but there is more to do in terms of understanding, like Matt Kay says, the polling system as a whole, what its purpose is, and how we get as many of you engaged in giving your opinions on the content as possible.
Imagine, right, the PvP don't get what they want through the polling system. That is one of the other fundamental problems we need to solve, is what is that solution in there? Is it, as you said, we only allow PvPers to poll on content? Can we even do that? Can we identify a PvP player, or is it a wider education piece? PvP has this part in the game. If they don't get content, they leave, which means it affects other areas of the game. It's a big, massive problem, and you guys will have your opinions. Obviously, Reddit has their opinions. Twitter, Twitch chat will have your opinions. But it's the people who aren't talking to us that really scare me, and that's what we need to get into the realms of why aren't they voting. If they just don't want to, it's fine. We'll just carry on doing what we're doing, and we need to get that answered.
Like, I saw it in the chat as well, and I have seen, why aren't people voting? And I have seen, because we can see the results. But again, I can't really stress any further. Like, 90% is a lot of people that aren't voting, and I'm not saying it's going to be 100%. It's never going to be 100% for sure, but very low.
I mean, the first polls we did, the first one was 140,000 respondents out of about 300,000, wasn't it? It was around that sort of thing.
Something of the sort. It was, I think, the first in-game poll with guaranteed results that wasn't something like naming a pub.
Yeah.
So, seriously, that was a poll in like 2009. So it would get more attention. Also, nobody knew what Old School was going to be in the first month of it existing. It was just there, and players all had their views about which way it should go and how we should run it. Even the 75% threshold came out of a forum thread.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
It's worth knowing, when we're talking about the number of players voting, that it's mostly stayed the same or dropped while the game's grown. We've we've tripled the size of where we were a few years ago.
Yeah.
And the fact that new players haven't all jumped on voting means there's probably more of a problem there as well. Of course, we understand that a lot of you guys in the chat, a lot of people that are shouting on Twitter and Twitch, to you, it's your reason might be, well, I don't feel the need to vote. I can see it's passing at 90%, my vote's going to not change that. And it might be different if it's hidden. Of course it might be. But then there's more than just the people in the Twitch chat. There's more than just the people on Twitter. All these new players who come into the game don't necessarily watch Twitch, don't necessarily use social media either. And we need to understand, why are they not looking at the poll booths? Why are they not actually voting themselves as well?
I think when we did a study, we came back with, we did a survey on how many people actually use Reddit, and I think it was like 20, correct me if I'm wrong here, but 20% of players read Reddit and like 5% vote on it or something, or post on it.
It's because sometimes you'll see people tweet like, oh, but where do you find out about information? And they'll make a Twitter poll, and Twitter will be number one. I'm like, see, everybody speaks on Twitter. It's like, because you're putting the poll on Twitter, of course. Most people are going to respond Twitter on the Twitter poll, or Reddit when they're on Reddit. Like, it's not really as high as you think.
I see a lot of people saying, like, we're trying to deflect. We're not. We just want to get to the point where we actually have done research before making a call on a whim, because a lot of people are shouting for it.
Yeah.
It's because worst case scenarios in either case, could happen where we do just hide poll results. And what are you hoping to achieve from us hiding poll results? Is it making sure that more PvP things get through? What if less went through? Or what if you want less of this thing through and it actually gets more through by hiding them and stuff like that as well? We don't know how that's going to work.
So some things people want to achieve by hiding them include avoid people's opinions being skewed by seeing how other people feel up front. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know to what extent, I mean, you as a voter, when you're voting, do you see lots of people feel this way, I have to feel the same, or I have to feel different? I don't know if that's something that influences your thinking, but hiding the results would get rid of that as a source of influence. And another thing is the concern that my colleagues have covered. People choose not to bother voting because they see which way the vote's going already and don't feel like clicking on the thing.
Yeah.
Well, that would certainly get rid of it as well. Whether it would introduce other effects, I do not know. Apparently we have various concerns about it not helping with other problems with niche content. I don't think it would help with niche content, by the way. If anyone's going out there to say, I'm going to downvote this because I hate that kind of content, they can probably do it even without the encouragement from the existing results.
Please don't do that.
So,
the record. Please don't do that.
So, yeah, I think there is some stuff to be gained by hiding it, but you understand why we're not making that decision right now.
We'll investigate, we'll understand what's going to happen, we'll understand what we're trying to achieve, we'll understand what you guys want to achieve with the poll system, and then we'll do the right thing. We'll talk to you all the way through the process. But let's make the right decision. Let's make it, the poll system reflects what you guys want, if that's what you want the poll system to be. I think it probably is, and we will get to the right solution.
2 more sections. We've got feedback from the players from yesterday's blog, and then we can crack on with the actual Q&A. Fixing, I can't remember how we coined it in the blog, fixing old content or existing game content. I think it's clear from the feedback to our section that there is a gulf between what we consider fixing existing content. Like some of the quality of life changes examples we offered, you said that's not what we mean by fixing existing content. So it looks like you want larger reworks to existing content, much bigger projects than we envision. So we need to make sure we align on what fixing existing content means. whether it is a core month with lots of different changes, or it's more substantial work undertaken on something specific. Finally, PvP. We spoke about our intentions for how we want to get the right game design and right changes and identify what we need to do. First, I'll talk about what we've done wrong in the past. I think we've spoken to the wrong people and we've asked the wrong questions historically. Always lots of confirmation bias by having the same people in the room. Not many players interested in game design. We need to focus less on influencers and more on actual players, and not just people who still engage in content, because that's where the confirmation bias comes from. People who have stopped engaging, like what made them give up PvPing 6 months ago, and also asking players who have never PvP'd, like what would be enough to entice them. So talk to everybody rather than maybe a historic focus on influencers. We need to work out what we're trying to achieve. So what do you want? Do you want more people to kill, or do you want more people to fight? Because there's a very big difference in attacking somebody trying to get resources or someone who would be willing to fight back. It's two very different things. Do you want PvP to be more accessible, or do you want it to just be refined with quality of life changes to make sure that the current audience can play it better? So we need to find out what you want from it before we can have a cohesive design, really.
I think that's a really important point when it comes to PvP and getting more players into PvP. You see a lot of suggestions where ultimately it's a little bit transparent. You can tell it's existing PKers who just want more targets, which is not necessarily healthy for PvP overall in the long run, whereas there are actual suggestions and ideas which are going to get more players excited in actually learning how to PK and fight back. And that's, I think, what we want to focus on a bit more. That's more healthy for PvP overall in the long run, rather than just introducing incentives, for example, to PVMers in the wilderness isn't necessarily good for PvP. It just creates more sort of sacks of meat for PKers to feast on rather than engage with. So these are the kinds of things we're going to start talking about and looking to fix.
I think that's covered it. If there are still other questions you've got or feedback to give to the blog, then you know how to reach us, the usual social channels. I think there's a link at the bottom of the blog too to give your feedback.
All right, so I guess that about wraps things up for the big blog. Like I say, it was an ! Big blog in the chat. We'll link you straight to the blog that we put out, discussing all these sort of big questions that you guys have raised. Cool, so I guess we'll move on then to sort of the standard Q&A. Thank you very much for that, Sween and Matt K. Before we go into the questions, there was one bit of content I wanted to ask yourself, Wolf, about in particular, which is the seed vault.
Yes.
I know players have asked about this and sort of the progress where it's at for a while now.
And I think there's even previews available if you look at Jagex Maz on Twitter. She's, I think, been posting about this one.
I was about to say, at Jagex Maz actually tweeted out a picture of the seed vault, I think the other week, last Friday. So it is it's done development-wise, and now it's awaiting QA to take over. We're currently just finishing off some other project stuff right now with Deadman coming out, and then the rework of Assidious is being worked on, and Treasure Trails as well. And we have people on holiday as well, so Seed Vault is just a little, it's a few weeks away from us to pick up, but then it will be picked up, and in about 3 to 4 weeks-ish, maybe, I don't want to give an exact date, but around that time frame, we'll have your Seed Vault that we promised. So yes,
Excellent.
there you go.
Yeah, hopefully a bit closer to release, we'll be able to show you guys what it looks like. It is looking rather good, I must say, in terms of the interface work. Mod Maz has done an excellent job.
I was really happy that she got the favourite thing working. We were a bit worried.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, we were a bit worried that she couldn't get we had a bit of struggle with favouriting seeds that you want to use to be at the top, and she sorted it out, and it's exciting stuff.
What's your favourite seed?
Ranar, probably.
What's it? That's mine.
It's the only one I use most.
Do you have a favourite seed?
Favourite seed? I haven't done much farming recently. I haven't even engaged with the farming guild yet.
Right, let's pass on that.
But I did used to do toad flax all the time. I think that was sort of the best for
I like the
farm
white
runs.
lilies.
Okay.
Ash, what's your favourite seed?
I'm with Alec on the Ranar.
Come on, Kieran.
Why are we doing this?
I have no idea. Do you have many questions to get through today?
We have plenty of questions.
We're 25 minutes in.
So I'll just get to those instead. Cool. Our first question is from Gentle Tractor, who I would actually like to give a shout out to. That's the player who suggested the...
Everything.
Everything. But in particular, the new quest tab that we have, the tab system within the quest tab section where you can flick between your mini games, your quests. What are the other two?
Minigames,
help me out.
quests, diaries, and the current favour.
That's the one. So thank you for that design. That's now in game. It looks beautiful, if I may say so.
Fix something on that. I know you're not going to get this question out. I'm sorry. Ash, you fixed something about that the other day, didn't you?
Oh, you know, when you're doing a make all skilling thing and you switch tabs, currently it stops your skilling loop. I've made it not do that. Coming out in tomorrow's update.
Ah,
Good stuff.
excellent. So yes, Gentle Tractor has asked, well, they say the OSRS team often get asked what they personally want, but how about listing something you would never want to see in game and why? Be it an old post-07 piece of content, a gameplay mechanic, a reward, etc. Bonus points for not picking the obvious answers like evolution of combat and MTX.
Okay. Bonus points.
So I like this question. I think
It's a good
It is a
question.
good question.
Thank you.
but I forgot to think of an answer for it.
I thought of a good answer and then I totally forgot, so I'm going to
don't
scramble to remember.
I don't think I'd want to see daily distraction and diversions return. I'm not a fan of feeling like I have to go and do that bit of content. But I did enjoy penguins. That was a fun social
That's
thing to
fair.
I like content like next akin to that boss type, but when I think of reward spaces and stuff, I definitely don't like the idea of health boosting armor being a thing. That I don't like. So I wouldn't want health boosting armor to exist, essentially, that kind of stuff.
Fair. You sound like you have an idea, Matt Kay?
My change was, remember when Summer's End came out and you had to go do the quest and you had to run into the corp and you had to set fire to 8 fires, I think it was. And if you got killed during that process, it blew out all your fires, you had to start again. Now, it was later updated so that they stayed alight. That really wound me up because I never got that quest finished because it was so difficult to get those 8 fires lit.
So you hope that never comes in.
I hope that never comes in. Summer's End, I'd love it, but not that part of Summer's End.
Fair. Does anything spring to mind, Mod Kieran? Something you don't ever want to see in Old School?
I'd echo what Sweden said about dailies. Not a fan of feeling like I have to go through a chore list before I can play the content I want to play. But nothing really jumps out, to be honest.
That's fair. Do you have anything, Ash?
Those avatars for clans, so that gave benefits if you were training in their vicinity. I'm okay with, a clan scene. I would love to get a clan system so we could, let you group and do what you want to do together more effectively. But giving you benefits so that to get the optimal rates you must be in a clan with a group synchronized, that I feel is not something I want to see again. I would prefer that if you want to go and train, you go train. If you want to go do things together, sure, we should be able to give you a better system for engaging with each other, but not one that involves rewards for it.
I 100% agree. You shouldn't need an incentive to join a clan other than wanting
It's
to
a
join a
clan,
clan.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's fair. I suppose for myself, and I think it does work well in RS3, but I don't see it ever sort of working for Old School, is the idea of sort of elite skills whereby you have to have a minimum level in these other skills to access this new one. I don't think that's something we could ever really feasibly do. I prefer to be able to just work on any skill from the ground up, from the start. So that's my answer. Our second question is from Kitty. They ask, it's an appropriate username, you'll see in a second.
Okay.
They ask, have you considered opening Gertrude's Cat, the quest, to free-to-play? It's a short novice quest with no requirements, and cats would be a great beginner pet. Just as beginner clues will give free players a taste of clues, cats can do the same for pets.
Can do.
What's the point of having a cat? You can't turn them in for death runes if you're not a member. That's the only point of them, right?
Well, pets are fun.
Yeah, just having a
People
nice
enjoy pets.
follower.
The lumberyard you have to go into, is that members? We'd have to open that up.
Oh, but it's in a members
That's not really
area.
a
Yeah.
It's not really a sticking point. I think it was only made a members area because it had the cat
Oh, no,
quest in it.
It's not in a members area, sorry. It's still in a free area. It's cut off, though, the section.
Correct. So
Oh, yeah, but the
Okay.
fencing and stuff. That's a pretty cool idea. I don't mind free-to-play players having kittens.
I like it.
Hello, Kitter.
I mean, we could do that, or we could do new content for free to play that gives them a bit more tangible benefit.
We talked about the agility skill as a limited thing some weeks ago on this Q&A. At the time, we were addressing the fact that it's quite hard for, well, you know, if you've got level 1 agility, your energy is not a nice thing. And that's why when we start off a dead man thing, people promptly leg it to the gnome stronghold.
Indeed, yeah.
We see it on the heat maps.
Yeah.
So agility with some way of training it in the free-to-play area, but either players, some suggest having it limited so you can go too high. Others said let them do it as high as they like, but the only training facility is quite low level. It might help with the transport thing that's
Did we
so annoying.
have, if I remember rightly, I don't know if we have it, but years ago, if you had agility, it still affected your free-to-play game.
That is actually still the case.
That's still the case.
That's still the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not the help that free-to-play people are looking for, unless, of course, the message is subscribe. Mind you, if you'd like to subscribe, please do, but that's probably not what they're looking for here.
But yeah, so I mean, that sort of takes away the worry about only limiting it to a certain X amount of levels, because people can use it anyway. Or use the benefits of it as far as benefits go in free-to-play.
I think generally speaking, I quite like the idea of low-level content in members becoming available to free-to-play where appropriate. I think things like this are a nice example where it's giving a taste of something more that is on the other side, so to speak.
Yeah, I bring it up only because, like one of you was saying, we could give them the cat thing, we could look for something useful. I mean, the cat thing, maybe wandering around with a pet behind you, especially one that's a bit interactive, like an old Tamagotchi, might be, if anyone remembers those, might be of interest to free-to-play. But something useful, I would look to the agility skill.
Have we got any free-to-play or people who only have free-to-play accounts in the chat who've got any ideas
They're
on
all
what
going
would
to
be
type
useful?
me smiling face. You don't ever ask the chat.
I'm just seeing if there's any interesting ideas of what would be useful. I don't want to know if you were in the chat. I wanted you to tell me if there's anything
Everyone
useful.
in the chat.
Not that. I'm guessing not, because no one's actually typed any ideas in there. Low-level farming.
Yeah, got to get them potatoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cabbages.
Absolutely. Dungeoneering. Free-to-play PVM. That's an interesting one, because we've got a couple of free-to-play bosses, haven't we?
I would be glad to continue the Giant series.
Yeah. I think that'd be-
Partly because we don't do a lot of mid-level stuff of that nature.
What do you guys think about that? What if we did a whole bunch of extra free-to-play bosses and maybe some mid-level pay-to-play bosses as well? Would that be something that you guys... Oh, Goblin King, I like that idea.
Ice Giant boss, I was just thinking that the same way we introduced the Moss Giant boss, an Ice Giant one would be cool. All right.
Yeah, because the Ice Giant dungeon is pay-to-play, isn't it? But
No, it's free to play.
Is that free to
You
play?
go there
Yeah, you
for...
go there for Knight's Sword.
yeah.
Of course you
It's the Wyvern bit that's members only.
That's right, that's right. I haven't been a free-to-play player in probably 15 years.
It's the part of Night Sword where you do it as a low level and you're like,
You just avoid
sprint
them.
in,
Yeah.
sprint out.
That's
pit.
right, yeah.
That was harder in Classic because once you got into combat, you couldn't run away for three rounds of combat.
It's when you've got the worst pickaxe in the world, and for some reason Blu-ray takes forever to mine, purposefully for this case. You're like, come on, and a knight will wander over to you.
Just trying to get them stuck on the rocks so they're not... Yeah.
Someone said a really interesting thing, free-to-play wilderness boss.
Interesting.
That's an interesting idea.
I'll move on to the next question. We've got one from Lohend who wants to know if we can give added things to Bologna's store from the mining guild, like clay packs or the gem sack or something similar. They note that unidentified minerals are not useful after you have 240 of them for the expert mining gloves.
That makes sense. It's a consumable that you get continuously even after you've bought the gloves. Why not? Yeah. No, I think that'd be
I
fine.
don't see any problem with it. Happy with that suggestion.
Yeah.
Cool. It's DCOG has said, can we see more unique teleport animations for the diary teleports? Disappearing into a sulfur vent for the Mount Karulm teleport, for example. The Mauritania Desert and Ardi teleports have unique animations while the others don't.
My favourite quality of life all the time is the graphical stuff that we do. Like, and I don't even know why, but like the Xerix teleport being updated to use the unique one, that was cool. We've got the model for a unique amulet, that's cool. And they're relatively smallish jobs, it's just when we get the time for them. But like, I like that. I don't like it when it uses a generic Varrock teleport for something. Like, I like the Ectofuntus one where you get crawled into slime. It's cool. But,
You know what Mod Ghost's first animation job was?
Yes. The cow.
Oh yeah.
The amazing cow.
The cow teleport.
Yeah. That's the one where he'd been trained by the RS3 artists on, how to use the tools and how to come up with a really cool idea. But the RS3 artist had not briefed him on how Old School's rendering is completely different to RS3's. So he'd got this great idea for a size 3 animation with a dancing cow all around you, and then was stuck with, so how do you make one of those in a game where only things in your tile can render correctly? That was not the ideal way around to go about it.
I saw somebody using it the other day. It was quite cool still.
When they span
great
it,
teleport.
when it goes, when the cow keeps following. Yeah, classic.
That's what it should do, because rain a cow is something all games need.
Yes, indeed. Anyway,
Well, I've got a question.
Well,
What happened to crack the clue?
Yeah.
I know. It's somebody got intelligent out there.
Well done, and the Crack the Clue community.
Yeah.
You've been defeated
That's all right.
in record time.
That's all right. It is quite nice to actually see it solved, because even though there is this great feeling of watching people get frustrated when they're not getting towards the answer, just having it solved is like, well, it worked, and that was the thing. So I think
It just wasn't a year this
It
time.
wasn't a year yet. I think we need to do a stream on one of these, and I'll go through how you solve it, because they brute forced a few things here and there. Didn't quite solve it all, so give them another couple of weeks, I think, and maybe do something on here where I'll show you the answer, how it's supposed to be done.
That sounds good. The Crack the Clue community grew massively this time around as well. I think we set a good precedent, and we actually tried to plug their Discord, tried to plug their subreddit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a positive place to be, I think, for the last sort of 6 weeks or so, when they're all working towards something. And even talking to them afterwards, like, we made loads of new friends now. And just that aspect of people coming together to solve something and all working towards that solution was great to watch.
It wasn't quite 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite 6
I
weeks.
think it wasn't quite a month.
Well, we only launched
Well, no,
it
6
in like
weeks
mid-February.
From week one, when our
I
first
think
one came out when they all started.
Next time we'll just have to be we'll be a bit smarter next time. I think the reason it took so long previously compared to this one is that they kind of knew this time you need objects and you go to a location. We'll do something different this next time.
I think it's the first time we've had them do multiple emotes in a row.
Yes, we also, it's the first time that, like, I believe it's the first time that we had it so that we tried to limit brute forcing, like you can't wear that stuff and only have this stuff, and to try and stop it, but it wasn't enough, so next time we'll have to do something entirely different.
Yeah.
No objects, something completely different that you won't even...
I don't give any clues.
Oh, okay.
I don't give any clues.
Okay, maybe there will be objects. I don't know what your Crack 3 is going to be.
There'll definitely be objects.
I've got some ideas, but
I have a couple as well, but I don't want to say anything.
All right, well, let's up the devious meter
Yes.
for the next one. Animalastics wants to know if the collection log and boss logs can be accessible via a menu rather than an item.
Yes.
if we've got to find a menu place to put, say, a poll booth button, then it could have other things as well.
I believe the suggestion originally from Gentle Tractor when we updated that interface with the was to potentially pop it, not the poll one, the collection log there.
Yeah.
Or we could add it to the account section.
Yeah, I think repurposing that account one to be a player profile type thing, so you can have your collection logs on there, you can have your voting thing on there, you can have your account stuff on there as well, and maybe repurposing that would probably be the right way to go. Make it a bit more useful.
Sure, and I do like the idea of doing it though. I mean, while it's cool to have the item, it makes it slightly less obvious to find for players. And I think it's a worthy thing to have in the interface.
Absolutely.
Tame wants to know our thoughts on buffing the Charis dagger to be best in slot against insect monsters, similar to sort of Arclight for demons.
Sure, it'll be a laugh.
Previous suggestions were having the dagger as an attachment to some sort of spear, weren't they?
We made that weapon.
Yeah.
Well, being able to use it on the Calphite Queen's flying form would, I think, have been part of that, because she's up there, but and you can't hit her with a normal spear, but if you stick this wiggly dagger thing on the end of the spear, then you can.
Just about reach.
Just about right. It's made in game, I think. I think Mod West put it in game in the dragon, in the myth skills. Somebody's holding the weapon. It's already.
Oh, he didn't actually make the item for people to have.
Oh no, the model's made is what I mean.
He sure does like his foreshadowing.
He does.
Look up Varlamore while you're about it.
Didn't I see on some ninja film type things a massive knife on the end of a massive long chain that people were using, some sort of hidden tiger, crouching dragon type of film.
Well, in Daredevil season 1, there's an episode in which he goes up against a guy who's got a really big spiky hook thing on the end of a chain, which looks quite painful from what happens in that episode.
Yeah, 'cause we don't have anything on the end.
I don't know the word for it,
Do we,
though.
the weapon?
We have
Did we not
the
launch the
nunchucker.
flail as part of the Taste of Hope quest?
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What sort of flail is it?
A
A
bandit.
long one with.
Silver
Oh, so
one.
it's just got the little thing on the end of it rather than the long chain.
Oh yes, it's a stick with a chain and a hook on the end.
I'd like to go down the whole Morning Star route and have that sort of weapon going on as well. And
I don't like bendy weapons. They're not the best animated things in our game. Have you ever do you not remember when we were first introducing the wilderness mace? What's it called? Vigoras.
Yeah.
And the original animation of it, it was bendy and everybody hated it.
I do remember.
Yeah, that's why we don't do things on chains usually.
moving on.
Moving on. Our next question is from Cloud Tears. I'm going to start being more selective with the questions. I realise we're actually running out of time very quickly. This person asks if chatting publicly on agility courses could be made so that you're hearing other players wherever they are on the course, rather than having to have them within your sort of vision range, just to make agility a bit more social.
So across different levels, if you climb up
Yeah, I think levels, but also just sort of increasing, like I say, the range, because currently if you can't see them on your screen, they won't quote unquote hear you in the public chat.
Funny feeling that might be a problem.
Well, the engine lets us do it for an entire instanced area. Agility courses are currently not an instanced area, and it would be quite a big deal to try and make it turn into one, especially when you walk to the edge of it.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic about that one, sorry.
Okay.
What about the floors? If you're across different floors as well.
Well, this is the thing.
That's
there's a
CP
lot,
answer.
Is that what it's still the same for that, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Even items, do you respawn them when you join the instance? Or does the instance even exist if lots of people aren't there? Because it should instantly disappear if nobody's in it. There's a lot of tech problems.
Okay. All right. Sounds like we're probably not going to be able to get that one done. Arisen Netet asks if we can have different coloured max capes for each Iron Man mode.
So cool.
I think we have an image for this, which we're going to be showing. There it is.
It looks so good.
Obviously, it's an Iron Man suggestion, so there's going to be floods of no's in the chat. But I actually think these look very cool.
See, once we've sorted out the poll system, it'll be fine.
It looks very cool.
What do we think about these?
How many maxed Ultimate Iron Men are there?
Enough to warrant.
Yeah.
But how cool was that? If you
No,
saw
it
that
looks-
in
it
game,
looks- it looks
if you saw
cool.
that in game,
Yeah.
that is one of those,
What if it happens if you DI and you'd have to lose it?
Yes, you would. You would.
Well, we already do that with the
The
armor
armour.
stuff, so it's not unreasonable.
I think they're really cool.
I think they look great,
Yeah.
particularly the hardcore one. I think probably my favourite.
There are 17 maxed ultimates.
Is that it?
Go on to the chat.
17.
17 people going to have a really cool cape then.
Yeah.
Nice. That makes it extra prestigious. Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
You
Well,
would.
straw poll it.
Yeah, if we can do a straw poll, mod Bruno.
It's a
We'll just
cosmetic.
make it-
There's not a lot to object to.
Yeah. I mean, people, there's a lot of max capes, and we, even ourselves, sometimes complain there's a lot of them, but especially when it's locked. And anyway, you'd have it taken away from you if you weren't on that kind of account. It would automatically be removed. It wouldn't appear in your, for other things as well, it wouldn't appear in your player on house as you can't get this as regular player. We'd probably make it take up the slot of the max cape and stuff. So it wouldn't be intrusive to regular players. We can make that the case. It looks cool.
Cool. Well, it sounds
Does
like
look very cool.
we generally like it.
It's a bit like a Max Legends cape.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
it.
it does look good. Yeah.
I really like the Ultimate Iron Man one a lot.
Enough to play Ultimate Iron Man to max.
Would you lock it in a region?
How long did it take to settle?
Oh.
Like, what, 7,000 hours, I think?
Dude, watching Ultimate Iron Man train Herblaw is a painful experience.
Right, so while that straw poll's going, I'm going to move on to the next question from Safety First, Hold My Beer.
That's a good name.
They ask, are you guys going to address the issues with the bottomless compost bucket? Firstly, you get 2 charges per bucket if you add buckets of compost individually, but if you try to take it from the compost bin, you only get 1 charge. Secondly, when using the bottomless compost bucket, while the attis plant is growing, it seems to produce fewer herbs than a normal run. wood with ultra compost.
I thought you already fixed that first one long ago.
So did I.
Yes, the first one I'm pretty sure we did, but maybe not.
Not true according to the chat.
Yeah, not
we
true, okay.
seem
Well,
absolutely fine
sounds
with
like it's
doing it
fixed.
then.
Okay.
In terms of the other thing, you certainly shouldn't be getting less herbs.
Okay.
They're completely two separate systems.
Modrock and I went looking for that bug a while back, and we couldn't find it. I couldn't find it in the code. I put in some debug and still couldn't find it. He tried it with in-game, and while he thought he'd found it by setting his variables to the right thing, turned out that was not the right thing. So I think you've looked at the code too. I'm afraid I got nothing on that one so far.
We've had quite a few reports on that one, and it's just if we can't like consistently replicate it, we can't find the issue. We've scoured the code.
So I got some extra info out of players while we're about it. Like to confirm, you used the bucket on the thing. Could you please inspect it to see whether it thinks it got composted? Because if it hadn't been, that would tell us that the bucket didn't compost it, and that's why you're not getting what you should be. But they've confirmed for me that no, it really did compost it with ultra compost as well. So that means it must be something about the patch. I still can't find it though.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just difficult, and like take the Assidious range being too good. I couldn't find it. Other devs went looking for it and couldn't find it. Eventually, Kieran was rewriting all of cooking and spent long enough in that code that he actually did work out what was going on there. But I could have looked at it for a year and not found it.
Okay. On the subject of farming, our next player, Towelcat, who I think is one of the editors for the Old School Wiki, wants to know if we can get the disease and yield rates of each farmable herb and how they scale with level. Is that, is that a complicated question?
It all uses, doesn't it all use the stat random?
Oh, they're awful, weird rates on the herbs, to be honest. I don't understand what they're trying to do.
Right.
The numbers they've chosen originally. But, yeah.
So it wouldn't be easy to present that info.
Do they even have
should
our
be able
stat
to.
random calculator that we have?
Players
You
are
know,
familiar with
yeah.
there being a chance at 1 and a chance at 99 and interpolating between them.
Yeah.
Because we've told them that kind of thing enough times.
We could give them the two rates, I guess, but it's a lot of stuff to.
It's not that bad.
It
But
certainly doesn't translate into a number of herbs, although from it you could calculate what you're statistically likely to get as a distribution. But we should be able to export them with quite a bit of trawling.
Yeah.
The chances at level 1 and the chance at level 99, and let them interpolate for themselves. They're good at that.
Okay, so that's something we might be able to sort out for you guys.
yeah, don't expect the rest to make sense.
Our next question is from That One Guy, and he asks if we'll ever bring back fan favourite minigames such as Soul Wars and Stealing Creation with revamped rewards. And the second part of the question is, how do you think the community would respond and how it might affect Old School?
We had exactly that conversation a few days ago, didn't we? So we constantly look at new updates that we could do in the future, and we try and assess them and see what's worthwhile doing. We looked at Stealing Creation, didn't we? Yep. And I think the biggest issue that came to us from that, and again, jump in if I get this wrong, because I think you two were both in the room, weren't you? Was that we have to do Stealing Creation significantly differently, because what happened last time was it turned into almost like you have to do it in the most efficient way possible to get the best benefit from it, and almost manipulate the game to get the rewards you want from it.
I enjoyed
which some people do enjoy, absolutely. Some of the cohort of players do really enjoy that, but it turned it off for all the rest of the players, a larger group of players who wanted to play it for the fun, and found out that it no longer became fun. And of course, I mean, the biggest issue with it is that you could pickpocket rotten potatoes from people, especially if your
Yikes.
name's Mod Chriso.
We wouldn't.
It doesn't work here anymore, does it?
We wouldn't code it like that.
It hasn't worked for about 10 years. I think we're probably safe. We might be watching this. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't code it like that. We might accidentally spawn a twisted bow.
Yes.
The issue is that if the rewards, the clay tools, aren't good enough, you probably won't play it. If they're good enough to warrant playing, then you'll probably try and play it in the most efficient way and won't play the mini game for fun. kind of defeating the point of the update. So we'd have to change the rewards and the gameplay massively. Then does it not become stealing creations anymore and it's something else? Doesn't have the nostalgic factor and won't be as impactful.
Yeah, I wonder how many of the requests, obviously it's a really popular one that comes up a lot, but I wonder how many people are suggesting it because they remember the nostalgia and the feeling of playing Stealing Creation back in the day, but not necessarily realising that the player base has changed since then. They have less time to play and they're doing other things, so it is more about efficiency than it was and less having fun playing minigames, and that might change how players actually interact with the content now. So it's hard to know that kind of thing, and it definitely has to be considered when we're looking at designs for this sort of thing.
I didn't come here for the feels, I came for the questions.
Sorry, man.
Well, we're hardly going to tell the players you think you want that mini game, but you don't. However, we genuinely would have trouble getting the assets recreated for it. Soul Wars is a bigger problem for that because it had so many more elaborate models and animations, but Stealing Creation had quite a few. And we found before that if we give players back some content and say, we've given you back what you had in the pre-EOC days, and it don't look like it did, they do not like it. I mean, we've tried this and the feedback was overwhelmingly negative when we've done that kind of thing. So it does seem expected that we try and get the look right, and that is a problem, because recreating the corp took several weeks, which consists of 2 NPCs, a couple of projectiles, and we didn't actually recreate the cave accurately. We just used an existing cave wall model and copied the shape. Credit to Mod Reach for that. He copied the shape precisely right up to the western wall, which was a great big line because that was the edge of the map square. But apart from that, I do not think we could make a Soul Wars that you'd feel was Soul Wars. And even if we could do it for Stealing Creation, give or take the bit where it had familiars back in the day, the reward design can be awkward, because I've had a lot of people clear when they say we want the minigame, they also say at the time they don't want those rewards. We're happy to give them different rewards. We're like some shields like you might have got from another minigame we haven't got, I don't know. But it does bear thinking about. That's where I was going with that.
I would rather do Music's idea in the chat there, which is a stray dog quest, free to play, quite frankly.
Because members have cats.
Yeah, so they can have the dog, and then the players can get dogs. We have different dogs, different stray dogs. Then you can go around saving all the stray dogs and feel very warm and fuzzy inside.
If anything, free to play can have the cats and members can have the dogs, because dogs are way better than cats.
I think they agree with me.
You know when you're shooing away the stray dog, what is the sound that you actually make? How would you go about, the...
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the sound?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Or like raspberry. Yeah, like that.
Right, okay.
Like that.
That makes
Sorry about that.
I know. It's fine, don't worry.
You won't wash
Cool.
that arm again.
We have to wipe Mod Wolf.
So the results of the straw poll that we held are in. We asked you guys if the special Iron Man Max capes that we showed earlier should be added to game, or at least if you guys like the idea. And 84% of you said yes, which is mightily surprising.
Is it, a new cosmetic that takes away nothing from anybody?
Well, it's just often Iron Men.
No, let's not jinx it. Let's take it as a win.
Okay.
Let's not elaborate on it.
Yep.
85%
We're happy with that. I'll move on to the next question then. I appreciate we're running short on time. So I've got a couple questions here with pre-written answers I just want to get out quickly. I say pre-written from other mods that I want to...
I did the same thing last week, don't worry.
Scripted in the chat, there we go. So one of the questions was from Crazy Shane, and he asked, and there are a few players who want to know about this, they said, can we get more player mods and an application system would be nice. So Steve W, Mod Steve W, one of the player support managers, wrote an answer to this. I just want to get it out there. He says, I agree that we could do with more PMods in Old School, particularly to help us tackle some of the disruptive behaviours such as scamming, games of chance, fake giveaways, doubling and phishing that often plague high traffic areas such as the Grand Exchange. We currently have 1,641 player mods and 32% of them, which is 514, are in Old School. We are actively recruiting right now and carrying out all our checks about, and are about 100 Old School specific new PMods will be joining next week. And all of our immediate recruitment over the coming weeks will also be for Old School only until we get to around 900 or so in total. In terms of an application system, we have looked at that in the past and didn't find it very effective. In a like-for-like comparison, we actually found more people who were suitable to be a PMod just by random selection than if taken from a recruitment thread that we ran on our forums as a trial. I guess it's something about the type of person who applies for it isn't necessarily what we're looking for.
The sort of person who asks to be PMod is not the sort of person who ought to be PMod in general, I think. I mean, we tried the application process via @JagXRunner's Twitter.
Oh yeah, @JagXRunner was the meme, wasn't it?
That was what Modreach said on stream. It seemed a remarkably dick move.
Steve W goes on to say, if anyone wants to maximise their chances of being selected for invitation to be a PMod, don't @JagXRonan.
Nobody's going to respond, I think.
Instead, he says, make sure you have your authenticator enabled, as that's one of the requirements or something that we look for. Otherwise, you won't even make it to manual review. And that's something to bear in mind. So that's that.
Since he didn't mention his reason for it, I think it's because they don't want to give player mod mutes to people who then might lose their account and then have the hijacker go around muting, which might relate to other topics on this stream, of course, but that's why he's doing it. It's not just to plug the authenticator.
Who here's a PMod?
I removed mine.
Monka S.
I didn't feel
Monka
like I
S.
could be so toxic in game with my PMod crown.
I know, actually, the worst part.
I got rid of it.
The worst part of being a PMod is that you can't be toxic.
Look
Look at all the PMods we have in chat.
I think PMod.
542 of
This is all, yeah, it's every single one of them.
That's incredible.
What are the odds?
How could I crash people with a PMod?
So as I understand it, when they do get a new PMod, they don't just give them the mute and send them out running. I believe there's a sort of probation.
It's a month long.
Yeah.
So that might be why they don't just appoint 20,000 all at once and let them go wild.
Yeah.
Although PMod's gone wild in RuneScape might be a different thing altogether.
Oh dear.
Moving on.
There is, just to comment on that, there is quite a thorough process from what I understand. I used to handle the PMod stuff myself, but now it's mod mouse in support.
I don't say,
does
because if they have Twitter, now they're going to spam that.
Don't
now
spam
they've
anyone.
thought of it.
I think that's on you more than me. But yes, so there is a thorough process. Mod mouse vets the applications, the people that are being considered for invitation, and then, like Ash said, there's sort of a probation period before they're allowed to mute anybody. So we are quite thorough in making sure no one does go on a sort of rampage muting spree.
And that's why, although Mod Steve W's answer didn't cover it, it's probably why he's not just going with a suggestion of let's have lots of them, that'll help, because he knows what happens if you get lots of them and they go out of control.
If everyone's a PMod, then no one can speak and there'll be no toxicity. That's like full top level IQ, that is.
Let me write it down.
So I'm going to move on to the next question, which also has an answer from one of our artists. I wanted to get this in before the end of the stream. Just a random Uno asks, what are the challenges when it comes to...
It's a good name.
Right, it's a good name. I haven't said anything.
No,
all right.
It's a good name.
They ask, what are the challenges when it comes to creating art assets for old school? Presumably you can't follow conventional standards for modern games while fitting the old school aesthetic. So this is an answer from Mod Rye, and I'm going to try and go through it. It's quite a paragraph that he's written, but I'm going to try and squeeze it in. He says, the challenge in creating old school assets mainly comes down to the limitations we face with our tools alongside the unique way the game is rendered. But on the flip side, these actually help to influence and reinforce our core art style by providing hard lines that we can't cross with our designs. I could easily write a whole essay on this, but one example of a challenge we face on basically every asset is working around the very low resolution vertex grid we have relative to modern games, which can be seen when bits of geometry seemingly snap about during animations. This gives all movement in old school a very distinct look that no other game replicates as far as I'm aware. We mainly take this into account when designing worn items and NPCs so that details and silhouettes aren't lost if some close proximity vertices move to different positions. This is less of an issue on props and environment models because of their static nature, but it still enforces limits. For example, the level of detail and smoothness of curved surfaces that can't be created. So there you go. Anyone who sort of knows more about art and game graphics than I do will sort of probably understand that better.
That's
but yeah,
really
there we
upsetting
go.
about that. 'Cause they're all just still typing PMod.
Yeah.
I know, that was a really good answer, guys.
Yeah, pay
That was a
attention.
good question.
If you missed it, go back and have another listen.
I'm a simpleton. I got distracted by the chat. I found it quite entertaining.
I knew what the problems were.
Exclamation mark Pmod, just very relaxing, like a screensaver.
So I'm aware we've hit 6 o'clock. Just before we wrap things up, we have an announcement to make. We've actually been nominated for an award. I don't know if you want to give more details on that, Mod Sween.
Exclamation mark BAFTA in the chat. Very exciting. We've been nominated for the EE Mobile Game of the Year at the BAFTA Game Awards. You can vote by following that link there. We're up against some pretty tough competitors, but yeah, I think we're in with a shout.
Yeah, I'd say so.
The release is strong.
Clearly the best game.
I think I'm right in saying if you vote, it gives you a chance to win. Yeah, I think you get
tickets to the awards.
win tickets to the awards themselves.
Not everybody is eligible though. I think it's this criteria that you have to be a UK resident or at least own a UK phone number.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Cool. So I guess that just about wraps things up. Sorry we didn't have time to get around to your chat questions. I'll make a note of them and include them next time. Thank you everyone in the chat for watching and listening, and thank you to everyone on the couch with me this week. And we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.